We have a lot of questions for you. We know that the Freedom Caucus is quite important in this moment in time when you're trying to get legislation out, whether it be health care as well as tax reform. But we're going to get to that in a moment. I've got to ask you about this bombshell that happened yesterday when I was on the air on Fox News with Senator Rand Paul. He dropped quite the bombshell when I asked him about surveillance. Listen to what he told me yesterday, Congressman. All right.
Great.
I've gotten 2 reporters that came up who says they have multiple sources. Some of this has been published already, saying that the Obama administration was looking at my private information, and there are rumors of other people who ran for president as well. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. I've asked the White House to look at the logs of all the previous Obama administration people to see if they were searching my name or unmasking me in any way. I know of one other senator who's already confided to me that he was surveilled by the Obama administration, including his phone calls.
So Rand Paul is saying that he was surveilled during the presidential election. He's saying that another senator confided in him that he was surveilled. So was the Obama administration wiretapping or spying on all of the candidates because they wanted to know what was going on and what they were doing to make sure Hillary Clinton won, or what? I mean, you can only assume that he's talking about either Senator Marco Rubio or Senator Ted Cruz. Those were the other 2 senators that ran for president. What do you make of this?
Right. I make of it they surveilled the wrong guy. I mean, boy, what an error, and it's just the punitive nature of the federal government in general. And so in a rare note of bipartisan agreement, Bernie Sanders all the way over to Donald Trump agree you better clean the swamp and reduce the budget from $4 trillion. Every sector, every business now, even the church goes up to Rome and to Washington, D.C. to solve the problems of the day, right? No one goes to the local government because they don't have the money. No one goes to the state. The bureaucratic state is growing. It's insolvent, right? We're $100 trillion light on unfunded liabilities. The kids are in debt, $20 trillion. Medicare and Social Security don't work. Now we're going to have a federal health care system again. We need to move the power and the energy and the money back down to the states. And so the reason there's surveillance is because there's so much money at play. It's always the money. And that's the bottom line every single time.
This is a bigger story than just that. How do you see it, James Freeman?
Well, Congressman, I'm wondering, obviously, 2 big issues. What was the surveillance? What was the information they were collecting? And then what did they do with it once they collected it? On that second point, we've seen a lot of information leak out. How much of that do you think was coming out of the Comey FBI, if any? Is this something, I know people are probably eager to move on, but is this a case where maybe Mr. Comey ought to come back for one more hearing to explain exactly what his agency was doing with the information?
Yeah, no, I think you got it right. I don't know the details, of course, yet. But from what I've heard, Comey is coming back, maybe in front of the full Senate. And that's the problem, right? That position has become hyper-politicized back from the Hillary email files and the yoga notes, et cetera. Going through a $2 billion Clinton Foundation and the tarmac, the president talking to the head of the Department of Justice. And now the Democrats want equality and fairness, so they're trying to find something on Trump on the Russia side. And the whole thing's become politicized. And so we need a way more boring bureaucracy where people just do their jobs professionally. Yeah. We're a nation of laws, not of men and women, and it's just become way too personalized. And the law should do the speaking, and that's it.
Now, just on the unmasking, where they collected intel and then the names were removed, from what you've seen of that, were there legitimate reasons to do this, or does this look like politics to you?
No, a year ago, I mean, Rand Paul was leading the charge on the privacy piece, and obviously the folks who are libertarian-minded when it comes to the Constitution and our rights, which need to be protected from the federal government, never should have happened. We were promised this never could happen, right? There's just these huge haystacks with billions and billions of data points, and there's no way you could ever find out anything about an individual. Well, looks like they can easily find information on an individual now.
And they use government resources to do it. They use government resources to do it.
I don't know why we are all surprised by this, because James Clapper, James Clapper, the head of the DNI, lied to Congress. He sat there and said, Jews surveil American people. No. And then it came out completely that he did. But isn't the issue here is that the Obama administration could have surveilled, Senator Rand Rand Paul, had they given a Gates notice to the Senate and informed them, the Intel Committee, I mean, this is something that there could be, they could get intelligence and they could follow it, but they just didn't give the Gates notice. Is that the main issue at heart here?
Yeah, that's right. And the American people are not familiar with any of this. And if they know it can be turned on them, all of a sudden there'll be a shock, right? The folks the other night at my town hall, we got into it, and they said, you know, do rights come from God? And they booed it down. But the whole night they were trying to set up how many rights we should have in this country. So we need to get back to a fundamental discussion of what are rights, what are the fundamental rights that the government needs to protect. And that discussion is sadly lacking. The kids in the K-12 don't know what a right is anymore. And the left right now is just asserting that every good under the sun is a right. And so we need a little more philosophical investigation.
With due respect, the American people, to Maria's point, Maria's been on this week in, week out. We want to know, were crimes committed? Was there an abuse of power in terms of this surveillance? And the unmasking of, we know Michael Flynn, get to the bottom of who did it. The American people have every right to know that. And there's been poorly little in action. There's been very little action.
Where's the investigation?
Right, exactly.
Are you going to investigate? Is one of your committees going to investigate? Where's the investigation of the unmasking? Since we go ad nauseum talking about the potential collusion between Trump and the Russians.
Right. No, I'm glad you're all over it. I've been you guys are doing a great job. Trey Gowdy's our oversight, and our side, my friend Jim Jordan. We got good oversight in the House.
Right.
The Senate Intelligence is doing it. They keep it pretty tight. They don't want the information leaking out so it doesn't look political.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know what they know, but they're not going to, you know, vet it out in the newspapers. That's not where they should do it.
Yeah.
They need to do a professional job. But that is the nature of the problem. The people want to know, what are you pursuing and how you're pursuing it. And so the more professional and buttoned up you are, the less gets out to the folks. But you got to rely on the integrity of your representatives, and so make sure you're electing people of that caliber and standard.
Congressman,
those two are great.
Real quick before you go, we got to have one question on the agenda. Are you looking for a fight when it comes to tax reform, as it relates to border adjustment tax, what deductions are going to stay or go? I know the fight you just had on health care. Should we expect another one later on in the year when it comes to tax reform? Are you going to get anything done this year, Congressman?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, in the Virginia Republican creed, we believe in free markets, right? So on health care, we started off with a federal thing. I'd prefer a little bit more free market feel to it.
Right.
So we made a few improvements, and we voted yes in the end. On taxes, border adjustable, the huge exporters love it. The huge importers hate it. So they're going to duke that out. I'm not sure if that piece survives. We'll see what the White House and Mnuchin come up with. But no, we don't want to fight. We want to move that thing through in a matter of months because the market has already built it in, right? And we're seeing consumer sentiment this week maybe down a hair. So we need to keep that momentum flying. We don't want any fights, but let's talk ahead of time, see what we can get through. I think your initial commentary from the panel was great on if we do the C Corp, we better do the S Corp and bring equity to the small business person. They're getting hammered. The big guys are surviving fine and dandy in D.C. under the Obama regime. The big banks were doing good. The small banks were getting clobbered.
Sure.
The big insurances are surviving. The small guys are getting tanked. So we need to provide some relief at home to the small guy.
Yeah, great to see that's a priority, small business. We know that's where the job creation is.